problems of climate change. Healthy agriculture builds the soil. Sequestering carbon and reducing nitrous oxide emissions, two potent contributors to climate change. Political leaders need to work together to increase the number of and support for climate-friendly organic farms that reduce greenhouse gas emissions, sequester carbon, and are resilient in the face of environmental threats. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next, public. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Nielsen.
I don't want to get into debate with you, sir, but I would just say this is one farmer who disagrees with you about methyl iodide.
Okay.
We won't need to debate it here today, but I just...
Subject of another hearing, perhaps.
And I'll be glad to for
Yes,
the
sir.
future.
We'll invite your next comment.
Yeah, I'll be very brief
Yes,
since the time we don't
That's
have
all right.
time. I'm Dave Runston. I'm the policy director for CAF, the Community Alliance
Yes,
with Family
Family
Farmers.
Farmers.
Proud to have our office there at Glide Ranch in
Yes.
Yolo
I have
County.
a lot of you in my district here, right? or Mr. Nielsen's district as well.
And we stand ready to help you in any way that you would like. We've worked for 30 years on a lot of these issues, and we'd be happy to provide information and testimony as you might like. I do want to clarify a couple things that were said. One is that extension to us is extremely important. And the university's down almost 200 positions in extension, almost 50%. They're almost down about 50% from where they were. And when we're starting with these young farmers who want to farm and stuff, we've cut the very public resources that they need in order to get the help. And so for us, it's become a really critical issue. The other thing I wanted to clarify what Claudia said about the farmland. When she said 1 million acres, she meant over the last 20 years. So it's
Okay,
50,
not a year.
it's 50,000 acres a year that we've been paving over for the last 20 years.
Yes.
And we add about 500,000 people a year to California. So it's kind of easy to remember it that way. So
Thank you.
anyway, thank you very much for the chance to be here.
Thank you. Thank you very much for attending our hearing today. And, whether it's 50,000 acres or 500 acres, once you pave it, it's gone. So anyway, next.
Thank you,
Yes.
Madam Chair. My name is Michael Green. I represent the California State Grange,
yes.
which this year will celebrate its 138th year of continuous operation in California. It's got a long history going back to agriculture in the state, and over the years its membership has changed. Right now we have about 10,000 members participating in 185 granges located in 45 of California's counties. They're spread all over the state. And I think the best characterization of the membership is that these are people who either currently live in communities that were agricultural communities and have gentrified and become other things, or descendants of members of families who were farmers engaged in agriculture. The Grange every year has an annual meeting. Delegates from the local Granges send resolutions to be discussed at the annual meeting. Each year, the delegates adopt resolutions, and to demonstrate the relevance of their thinking, last year, 4 of the resolutions that were adopted dealt with subjects that you've already taken up here today, and I'm just going to touch on them. One was the use of volunteers and interns and farms, how you get over the labor difficulties of incorporating young people who want to take on agriculture as a vocation, but have problems in getting situated on a farm. Next one was the integrity of the certified farmers markets. There have been some problems uncovered at certified farmers markets in the Los Angeles area, where people are proposing to be selling foods that are certified when in fact they were not certified, or they were not grown in the state of California. We think that needs some attention, and that was a concern of the members. The memberships are very concerned about the use of methyl iodide. And then finally, GMO has been mentioned. The Grange was the sponsor of AB 88 this year, which would have required the labeling of genetically engineered salmon. That's a 2-year bill that will be coming back. I want to congratulate you all for your formation on this committee, and please count on the Grange to help you in any way that we can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I've been to the Gwenda Grange Hall, so Yeah.
Yes.
I go there in February for Black History Month.
Yes.
I do. Next, thank you very much for your comments.
Yes, my name's Cliff Omart. I'm Vice President of Professional Services at Sure Harvest, and I did not come prepared to say anything, but at
But
the
you were
suggestion
referred
of
to.
Secretary
Yes,
Ross, I
thank
thought I
you.
should come to the microphone.
Thank you.
And given the late hour, just offer as a resource for testimony in a future hearing.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of work with grower organizations. The work that I did in Lodi basically became the model that became the Sustainable Wine Growing Program. We're currently working with the Almond Board. We're working with those several commodities that Secretary Ross mentioned, so I'd be very happy to come. We've got a lot of lessons learned as a company. We've had over 20 years of experience, and I think we could maybe provide some information that might be useful in some of your decision making. So I'll leave it at that, and I can leave my card with somebody
Yes,
to
please
get on the docket
do it
if you'd like to do testimony in the future.
Thank you very much. And as we say, definitely your cards, or please sign our sheet back there, and we will, we have some, I think, exciting plans maybe to have some district-based hearings, or, hearings out where, instead of you coming here with this kind of green carpet, we should be out where there really is a green carpet, fields and so forth. So we'll see what happens. And our final witness, it looks like, or
I just have
Mr. Mull.
thank you again,
Absolutely.
Assemblyman Person Yamada, for your pulling this committee together. I certainly think, as a citizen watching the intelligence and the perceptive questions of all of our Assembly people here who've made comments and asked questions, you guys are sometimes vilified in ways you probably shouldn't be. And maybe if you talk more about sustainability, it would be a much more positive face that you put here in the state of California. I know that many years ago, Jim Nielsen was our pest control advisor in our fields in Yolo County when I was growing up. Certainly has a long history, saw a lot of changes in agriculture over that time. And you, Assembly Person Yamada, have been to our farm
Yes.
to see our lambs and things. And I think during that time, and a critical piece of all of this is that we're talking about generating new farmers, but I think we can't afford to lose any older farmers. The skills that we have in agriculture are vitally important if we're going to take the ideas of sustainability, incorporate them into the agriculture that we have, and make our farms, with the existing farmers we have, economically viable over the long haul. And that's been a difficult nut to crack. I think certainly since Assemblyman Nielsen was our farm advisor, there have been many farmers in Yolo County have gone out of business, many through no fault of their own, just through very difficult markets, and markets that increasingly are consolidated, and input costs that go up, things beyond the control of the farmscape. So I think there are serious questions here about sustainability, not just for organic agriculture, but for all agriculture, that I hope this committee can embrace and look for ways to keep farmers who are farming and their offspring in agriculture, because we vitally need their skills. And I just want to say that I've been an organic farmer for 30 years, looking at ways to diversify and stabilize the kind of agriculture that we have. We have a very relationship-driven model. The representatives from our urban districts certainly have had the largesse of agricultural economies that have fed them and clothed them and kept those economies strong and solid. And yet we need to figure out ways to bring more of those dollars back to our rural communities, because I think the initiatives here in sustainability and organic agriculture are seeing more dollars come back to local communities. And that is a necessary ingredient in creating a stable farm economy. We need to figure out ways, and I think what's happening with organic farming, it becomes an entry pathway for new farmers. It's a place where people can begin, and with those skills, they can circulate money locally. We on our farm might be seen as a really inefficient operation that we have 50 full-time workers year-round. Those workers have houses in the community. Their kids are stably employed. Also, are students in the community. Their lives are stable. And I think there are new models to think through how we stabilize the agricultural workers' lives in our communities, and how we organize our farms so that we can think about the combination of capital and labor perhaps a little bit differently. I think the subject you're taking on is vitally important. It's very topical. It crosses many lines, and I applaud you guys for being here and staying for over 2 hours to hear our testimony. And so I think we're moving in a very positive direction. Hopefully you'll utilize farmers for testimony on your committee, because I think
Absolutely.
they're the ones ultimately who speak last. Right?
Yes. Well, in this, and before you go, well, I mean, I could identify you, Paul Muller, but would you just restate your
Yeah,
name
I'm
and
Paul Muller. I'm a farmer in western Yolo County. And
Old Belly Farms.
thanks.
Wonderful, wonderful farm. And on that note, I just wanted to say that we're very fortunate to get this assignment early in the year. Wanted to proceed a little bit earlier than now, but there were a few what I call overarching issues that we thought might take away from the focus on this committee. And we feel, a sense of, I won't call it relief, but I'll just say that with some of the major hurdles behind us for this year, we're now really very much looking forward to having the direct input from those who are most affected. And that's why we, do intend down the road to have some hearings, in the district. Select committees sometimes, don't have the same supports. We are relying upon internal staff to keep this committee going, rather than, having additional staff to help us. So we know we have many partners out there that we rely upon, both near the Capitol and certainly not too, we can certainly do a little bit on the road, I think, in the future. We look forward to a lot of different topics, as I say, as we had our internal discussions, even preparing for today. There are so many topics to cover. It's all under that rubric of, how are we going to sustain agriculture in the state? What are the barriers, both economic, political, as well as just resource for the future. So, but I have great optimism. I know it's a very tough life. Agricultural activity is very, very difficult, and it takes a very special group of people to continue, protecting this very vital industry and way of life. It really is a way of life that we need to preserve and protect. So I look forward to doing that.
Be a way of life, but not a vow of poverty. So I think we can keep profitability.
Exactly. Well, we know the 3 Ps, right? The profit being you have to make a living, and a good living. Any other final comments, Mr. Nielsen?
Paul, you provoked a thought in my mind that as I'm traveling up and down this Sacramento Valley, 3,000 miles a month, I'm going to ponder. You talked about keeping farmers in agriculture. You referenced our youth that we want to have stay in or come to agriculture. And I personally must say I've been preoccupied with that for a long time. But I probably haven't thought enough about how do you keep those older farmers here. You mentioned Yolo County, and I think you and I both know the names of those landed families that aren't there anymore, that are not farming, that were the preeminent farmers, not just in Yolo County, but in California. The Muller family is kind of unique. Joe and Marie passed on to their children a drive and a motive and an ability to maintain the family farm, and then an affiliate. Some of you kind of have your own thing, but I know you still work together as family. But that's becoming more rare in our industry. And I really would like to exchange thoughts with some of you folks who have testified here today about that generation that's passing, but how do we keep them engaged as well? Those who were in their 40s or their 50s or even their 60s. I want to think about that a little bit. How do they stay around? Now, one of the things we can do is, of course, the Williamson Act. And hopefully the governor signs a bill, and that will be a step. And by the way, that is only a step. We have to go the next steps, and I'm kind of dismayed that we lost a year. In other words, this year was to have been devoted on what will be our next step with the 4-year sunset. Now we had to kind of regroup and do that all over again. We extended the sunset, but that's one of the venues. But there are other things that I really am going to think about. And Paul, do stay in touch with me with your thoughts, or all of you folks as well. How do we keep those older farmers wanting to stay around and not getting tired and not being like Atlas and just shrugging and saying the heck with it and sell the farm? I don't know, but I'm sure going to be thinking about it.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, Mr. Allen, any last thoughts? You've been the most observant, I think, not commenting as much.
Well, I just want to thank the public for staying and listening, and that I've taken a lot of notes. To me, I have the attitude that we have so much to learn, and we need to be very open, and there's going to be a variety of subjects to cover. One little pet project, just so that you know I've been working on that might interest some of you, is that I found out to my horror that in the California Hall of Fame, we've excluded Luther Burbank from acknowledgement in what he's achieved for California, for agriculture in general. And I've approached the Future Farmers of America and a lot of the young people who know about Luther Burbank, and they've been writing letters to the governor. And it's just, I think it's important that agriculture has its proper place in recognition in our society. So thank you so much for all of you coming today.
That's a very good point. Well, maybe the select committee can write. Maybe 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 we can get a select committee letter going. Well, again, thank you all so very much for participating in this first hearing, and we invite all of you to submit additional hearing ideas to us as we go forward. We will enjoy a dinner probably brought to us by some of you very folks in the audience, and thank you again so much. Thanks to all of you. This hearing's adjourned.